Hi guys, so in this video we'll see Zipkin in action. So previously we have configured a micrometer and its dependencies, but as there are no traces, so we just have to start the applications and hit our endpoint, so that we'll get the traces in um Zipkin dashboard. So currently if I run the query, I'm just getting Eureka server traces over here. So if I show the trace over here, it's just calling this HTTP put request, and it's just showing that trace over here. Right now I'm just making call to customer service. So internally customer will call fraud detection microservice and notification service. So we'll get the trace of all these HTTP calls in our Zipkin dashboard. So I'm just calling it out. So this call is successful. Right now we'll just query it again. So you can see this customer uh, trace has been generated in Zipkin. So you can see the trace ID is generated. So this trace ID is unique for a request, and internally it will create the spans basically. So when customer calls to fraud and notification service, it creates spans inside it. So each particular request, when it is being passed from customer to fraud or customer to notification, internally it will create a separate span for that particular request basically. So customer is calling fraud and notification service, so three spans have been generated for customer, and two for each fraud and notification service. So if I show this to you, we have this trace ID and there is span table across. So this there are five spans with five different span IDs. So for customer post call, there is one span ID generated, and it takes uh, it calls this endpoint API hyphen v1 hyphen customer. So if I show it to you here in our customer controller, we have this API hyphen v1 hyphen customer. So this span has been recorded over here, and it takes 238 milliseconds approx. And internally customer will make get call to fraud API or fraud microservice, and it takes 106 milliseconds, and it will make call to this fraud with passing this customer ID to it. So it takes 76 milliseconds, and again customer will make a post call to our notification service, and it takes 90 milliseconds, and notification service takes around 62 milliseconds to process that request from customer basically. So here also it shows a graphical view of all the calls which are being made from customer. uh, this is a customer call which is a post call, and its outcome is success and status code is 200. Likewise it makes call to this fraud with customer ID as 3, and then again it makes post call to notification service whose status code is 200, and this is the a, URI for that particular notification call, and it again gives us the success response and with 200 status code basically. So if you look at this customer endpoint, it is internally making call to this fraud detection service and a notification service, and all these calls have been recorded over here, and it entire request from customer from end user to customer takes 238 milliseconds approximately. So if I hit the service again, it will I need to query it for finding the traces, new traces, and you can see this new trace has been generated a few seconds ago, and it takes very less time compared to the previous one, which is 87 milliseconds basically, and it also creates its own unique trace ID and spans uh, for each particular request within the microservices basically. So this is about Zipkin dashboard. It basically gives you the overall view of how request flows into your system, and if you go to dependencies part, it will show you the dependencies of your microservices. So you have customer microservice which calls to fraud service and notification service basically. So it will represent it in a graphical format. So right now we only have three microservices, but in case of complex architecture there will be multiple microservices, and this view helps us understand uh, how a request flows from one microservice to other microservice. So this is all about Zipkin dashboard. Thank you.